An aircraft in a public setting is not where one might expect such brazen and perverted acts to take place, but it is happening and it needs to stop now. We know from public safety campaigns that awareness is an important first step in protecting the rights of people and preventing crime before it happens. That is the step that we're here taking today, to advise travelers on what they can do to protect themselves and others, to share how law enforcement can protect you, and most importantly, to put would-be perpetrators on notice. Sexual assault is a crime everywhere, all of the time. It's a crime on the ground. It's a crime in the air. It's a crime where you came from, wherever you're going, and it's a crime here at SEA. Anyone who thinks that an aircraft is the place to get away with predatory behavior can receive my personal guarantee, backed by the power of the Port of Seattle Police, the FBI, the CBP, and the attorneys. You will meet the law. Our response is certain, it will be swift, and it will be severe. The Port of Seattle unequivocally condemns all acts of sexual assault. The Port Police Department answers the call as first responders at SEA. I'd like to express my gratitude to them and all of our law enforcement partners for protecting the rights of our passengers. And I want to send a message of support to the travelers, especially our most vulnerable passengers who are traveling alone. It's summertime, youth are traveling more than normal, and we're particularly concerned that young people need to hear this message now. No one should touch you while you are traveling. And if it happens, you can tell us. We want you to tell us. I want to commend every person who has come forward to report an incident so far. It's hard and it's scary to talk about your experience, especially with authorities, but your voices are essential to holding perpetrators accountable and making travel safer for everyone. To share more on the current status in our community and actions travelers can take to stay safe, I would like to introduce Acting U.S. Attorney Tessa M. Gorman.
Thank you, Commissioner, and good afternoon. As the Commissioner stated, we've seen a very disturbing uptick in sexual assaults on airplanes. And unfortunately, this is not unique to Seattle, as you'll hear from the FBI Special Agent in charge. This is a trend we've seen over many years. We in our office at the U.S. Attorney's Office currently have 4 criminal cases charged. And the perpetrators of these crimes take advantage of the unique circumstances of airline travel, circumstances that make many of us uncomfortable, very close quarters, captive. And they too often, they prey on young people who may not know how to report, are too afraid to report. I want to make this abundantly clear. Sexual assault on airplanes is a federal crime. The FBI, along with our partners, including the Port of Seattle, will investigate these crimes. And I want to make this also clear. The United States Attorney's Office in the Western District of Washington will and can prosecute these crimes. We will support our victims and survivors, and we'll take these cases. And wherever the sexual assault occurs, if you land in SeaTac, it can and will be charged in this district. This office has done this work in the past. It's not new to us. And our office took one of these cases, United States versus Reservoir, to trial in 2020, and we have some exhibits from that trial here today. Mr. Reservoir assaulted a 20-year-old young woman on her international flight to Seattle. And I want to describe a few of the features of that case that helps us do these cases. And first and foremost, I want to commend, of course, the survivor, who not only courageously reported, but took action immediately. She also took notes on her cell phone, even though she was having a hard time staying awake because of prescribed medications. Another thing I want to mention is all the bystanders who supported and helped in the case, and they became witnesses at trial, and you'll see how they were seated near the survivor of this attack. Bystanders are critical, and we encourage people to report the conduct when they see it. A jury convicted Mr. Reservoir, and he was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison. At sentencing, the judge called the offense, quote, an evil act, an awful, horrible nightmare situation. the public can help. We want the public to be informed and to be alert to these crimes. With that in mind, with the FBI, we developed a list of do's and don'ts. And we'll hand these out today. And these are just basic reminders to keep you and your family safe and secure. As I mentioned, the FBI is a primary investigative agency on these cases. And with us today is Special Agent in Charge Richard Collodi from the FBI.
Good afternoon. It's good to be here with our partners from the Port of Seattle, the Port of Seattle Police Department, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and Customs and Border Protection. Today, we're raising awareness of an issue that many people may not be aware. However, several of these incidents have been charged recently in the Western District of Washington. These cases have increased steadily since 2018, especially since pre-COVID. Sexual misconduct aboard aircraft is a federal crime investigated by the FBI. The FBI's jurisdiction includes crimes that are often investigated at a state level, but they become federal crimes when they occur on an aircraft or aboard cruise ships. When comparing 2019 to 2021, we've seen a 25% increase in investigations, even as the rate of passengers have not returned to a pre-pandemic level. For example, in calendar year 2018, the FBI had 27 sexual misconduct aboard aircraft investigations. That was nationwide. In 2022, there were 90 cases during the year. So far this year, we have 62 investigations. With the exception of 2020, that number has increased every year. Some trends that we're seeing related to this crime. Sexual misconduct is most often committed when victims are asleep. 20% of the cases included a victim who was a minor. 67% of the incidents included drugs or alcohol. In addition to our agents who investigate these cases, the FBI in Seattle and nationwide have airport liaison agents who work with local and airport law enforcement agencies to investigate these crimes fully as they are reported. This liaison works here at SEA Airport to be able to respond quickly to investigate and prosecute these cases. In addition, the FBI has victim specialists that they are available to work with victims and witnesses of these crimes. We consider each and every one of these crimes important, and it represents the victimization of an individual. We also recognize that these crimes may be unreported. The FBI encourages passengers to be aware of their surroundings while on board. Anyone who thinks that they may be a victim, we would ask them to notify the flight crew as well as the FBI. The poster that you see here on the far side is the FBI's Air Aware campaign. You'll also see this poster in other areas of SEA Airport. The QR code on the poster will take you to our reporting website of tips.fbi.gov. Next, I'd like to introduce Mary Ellen Stone, the CEO of King County Sexual Assault Resource Center.
Hi, I'm Mary Ellen Stone, and it's great to be here. I want to start off by saying I am heartened by the clear messages coming from Commissioner Hasegawa, in particular, saying victims are not responsible for what happened to them. We want to make sure that people understand that it is not the victim's fault. And the person who is accountable, who is responsible, is the person who's harmed them. I can't overemphasize how much that message needs to continue to be out there, that that this is an action created by someone, and it's not, no matter what happened to the victim, it is not their fault. We also want to make sure that people understand that services are available, both here at KSARC, but then also across the country, because as been mentioned, this is a national and international incident issue. So wherever people land, there are services available. We know, and you're hearing it in some certainly important detail about how sexual assault is occurring in any place, and certainly now on planes. And I want to highlight too that it's young people in particular who are vulnerable, and young people are vulnerable and they're often the least likely to say anything. We know this from our work at KSARC. They are least likely to come forward. They're least likely to say anything. They're afraid of making the situation worse. They're afraid of getting in trouble for themselves. And I think as bystanders, and I would say this to us and to the flying public, it's tempting for us if we see something that doesn't look quite right to say, that can't be what's going on. This is an opportunity for us to say, wait a minute, maybe that is what's going on. Maybe that is what sexual assault looks like, and to say something. It's particularly important for victims and survivors in that situation to have somebody say, is everything okay? Can I help you in some way? It's particularly important for crew members to be able to move that person or to say something and to somehow communicate that what's happening isn't right. We want that to stop. We want to protect them. We know nationally that sexual assault reporting is difficult, and sexual assault is one of the most underreported crimes. And I'm heartened that the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office is taking this on so seriously. It is still remains a very difficult crime to report, and that bystanders, people who are fellow passengers who are on the plane, really hold an important place, both to support the victim and to also say to the person who's doing this, this is not acceptable, that behavior needs to stop. And we further encourage people who are on the plane who may see something to give their information to the flight crew, because that can be helpful in this process as well. Awareness is critical. We are very pleased to be a part of this effort, and want to commend everybody for taking this as seriously as they are. Thank you.
I am curious to see all of the organizations that are working together. Why are there no airlines represented? And do you feel as though there should be a mandatory reporting requirement for airline employees and airline companies?
So one of the things that I will highlight is all the agencies that you see here. We work closely with the public sector, the companies in the airline industry, and so we have a partnership with them in these efforts. So while you may not see them standing here in front of you today, know that these public safety agencies, including the FBI, our airport liaison agents that I spoke about, they maintain a steady, consistent, and a highly engaged partnership with those airline companies to help address this problem.
And do you think there should be, like, cruise ships have mandatory reporting? I know there's been some work in Congress to try to get that done. You may not be able to speak to that, but do you feel as though there should be mandatory reporting from airline crews?
It wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment on what there should be, but I would again reiterate that there are strong partnerships in this effort and others that affect the travel industry.
Is there a common denominator amongst the perpetrators? Are they all men? Do they have a record? Or are these just more people who come out of the pandemic badly behaved?
Well, I don't have the statistics in front of you. Generally, more of the offenders are males. I don't have anything beyond that to break down age or criminal history.
Mine's related to this question. Is there some understanding or trend that you've seen that has resulted in this rise in cases happening on airplanes?
I don't have anything to cite as a causal effect of why this is happening, but it's something that we're tracking. We recognize it's a problem, and that's why we're here today, not only to acknowledge it, but to highlight the effort and our partnership, not only with the government and the airline industries, but the public, to be aware and to watch. We frequently say, if you see something, say something. These are challenging and they're difficult incidents. And so it's important for people to know that we rely on those partnerships with our citizenry, with those passengers, that if there is something concerning, to bring it to the attention of the flight crew and to bring it to the attention of law enforcement.
Mary Ellen definitely highlighted, like, if you see something, you think it's out of the ordinary, you're like, oh, that's fine. Can you run down some of the things that maybe if somebody sees something, like evidence that you would need to fully investigate and bring someone to trial?
We would encourage any member of the public who's on an aircraft, if they see something that seems unusual, we would encourage them to be courageous, speak to the flight crew, ask questions, feel enabled and empowered to do those things. not to dismiss it, that it may not be something, and that question or bringing that level, that first level of attention may really impact both the incident and the victim. I can't comment on any of the ongoing cases or the number right now.
Tessa, is it possible to give us any more details on any case that's been convicted so that that might also give our viewers a sense of what they need to report or what information needs to be used to be successful?
Yeah, we have a summary of the charge cases, current charge cases in our press release, and we're happy to take questions of those in whatever would be the public record offline. Yeah, thanks. I mean, I will say that some of what we've seen is use of blankets when someone's sleeping and someone else is too close to them. Those are just some factors we've seen in cases.
Does this, especially now in the summertime, well, any time of year, we have children who travel unaccompanied between grandparents, parents, whatever, friends visiting. Any, I guess, tips for parents if they are going to put a young child on a plane? And from what I understand, it doesn't matter if male or female, victims equally could, any gender could become a victim.
Yeah, and Mary Ellen probably has some good statistics on victims of sexual assault and perpetrators of sexual assault as well, so she may be able to comment. But I mean, one of our do's and don'ts is have your child sit on the aisle where they can be seen more by a flight attendant, and give your child tips about if anything unusual happens, you call that button right away, and they're going to believe you, and they're going to move you, and you need to be moved. But I will say, I think the numbers are rising, hopefully because we're getting people to report. I think this is a tremendously underreported crime. I think it's been a problem for many, many years. And what we're hoping, I wish we'd eliminate the crime, but I think the uptick is also people are reporting. We have great responses now. We're coordinator responses to these incidents. And I'm hoping that as we call this crime out, we get more attention and we have more successful prosecutions. Hopefully we can reduce some of the crime. Thank you. Thank you all.